Hello, psychologist Yulia Latunenko is with you. Today I want to tell you about such a phenomenon, a human attitude towards oneself as self-betrayal. Very often various mental health specialists mention this nowadays. Self-betrayal is a form of self-hatred, and today we will analyze with you what the signs of self-betrayal are. And you will even be able to identify this phenomenon in yourself using these markers. Do you betray yourself or not? Well, before I start, as always, I ask you to subscribe to my channel, give a like, and write in the comments if you have found signs of self-betrayal in yourself. So here are 7 markers that indicate you are betraying yourself. The first sign is that you very often say the phrase, "I'm angry with myself." This means that you are auto-aggressive and that you are turning aggression onto yourself. That is, you shouldn't be angry with yourself because in anger, the object is always external. If you turn this anger onto you yourself, you cannot express it to the person or object towards which this feeling is directed. You start saying, "I'm angry with myself." But in reality, this is not anger. This is feelings of guilt, feelings of shame can appear in this way as anger towards oneself. But you need to understand this and find the external object you are angry with and try to express your feelings in words to that object if possible. And if not, limit yourself to awareness or some techniques for processing anger. Well, maybe go punch a punching bag or hit a pillow, although to somehow reduce the tension in the body and the mental tension as well. Self-blame is a form of punishing oneself, and this happens to people who have had issues with feelings of guilt since childhood. These are people who were raised in childhood using manipulative methods of pressure on the child through feelings of shame or guilt. And therefore, you need to learn to simply share responsibility between yourself and others if a conflict situation arises, where you have taken all the blame, all the responsibility upon yourself. The number of participants in the conflict equals the number of shares of responsibility. That is, if there are 2 of you and a conflict has occurred between you, please find 50% of your own responsibility and 50% of the other person's responsibility. Responsibility is an adult category, but feelings of guilt and self-blame are categories of parent-child relationships. Therefore, translate everything into responsibility. So the first sign that you are betraying yourself is endless self-blame, self-punishment, self-destruction, and self-hatred, as well as taking on guilt, excessive guilt, and even guilt for other people. That is, the inability to share this responsibility for what happened. The second sign is that you allow people to violate your own boundaries. You are so afraid of offending people by refusing or saying no, stop. Or you are afraid of losing contact, losing attachment to the person. You are afraid that the person will be angry with you, and you choose to remain silent and endure. And you choose to allow your personal boundaries to be broken. You don't know how to stop what is unpleasant for you. You don't know how to say, "No, stop, this is not beneficial for me. This is unpleasant for me. Don't do that." And you are afraid that you will offend the person or lose them altogether. But every person has the right to their own boundaries. And if there are people in your environment who are offended by the fact that you have your own boundaries, These are the people you need to say goodbye to. Because your true friends, your true circle that loves you, will accept your personal boundaries, your right to say no and stop. The third marker that you are betraying yourself is the habit of comparing yourself to other people, especially if it is not in your favor. That is, you constantly compare yourself and see, oh, someone else did something better. I'm not like that in everyone else. Can achieve something, I can't. I'm a failure. I'm so and so. And so all these comparisons mean that you are rejecting who you truly are. So any comparison, comparing yourself to another person, is a betrayal of oneself. It's a rejection of yourself. It's a non-acceptance of yourself as you are. And take another person as a standard, a ruler to which you measure yourself and compare as if that person is a specific benchmark. You measure yourself like this and compare with another person, even though this process is completely senseless. There are no identical people. You can't and take one person as a standard today and another person tomorrow. That is it, and there are no standards of a person. There is no ideal person. That is, you need to accept yourself as you are and stop the process of comparing yourself to others, which actually breeds envy, by the way. The fourth marker that you are betraying yourself is that you do not accept your achievements, what you have that is good, kind, what you have already achieved. Your focus is always on what you lack. That is, you are always focused on what is missing rather than what is already there. In this way, you develop negative thinking and a negative attitude towards yourself. You cannot digest, process everything that you already have. That is, you are in a state of deficiency all the time and believe that you are lacking something. You are focused only on failures, on setbacks, on negative outcomes. That is, you need to reframe your thinking and notice what good you already have. Everything you have already achieved in your life. We still have 3 markers of self-betrayal left, but as always, in the middle of the video, I want to remind you that I would be very pleased if you subscribe to my channel as well as like the video and write in the comments if you have noticed any signs of self-betrayal in yourself. Please share in the comments. So, the next marker of self-betrayal is distrust in your own decisions. Any decision you make, you always need to have it validated externally. You rely on what your friends will say, what your parents will say, what other significant people around you will say. That is, you always doubt whether you have made the right decision. Well, and then, after you have already done something, made a decision, you still doubt it post factum and punish yourself for having acted incorrectly. That is, no matter what you do, you will still punish yourself and convince yourself that this decision was wrong. In other words, this is a form of self-devaluation. Essentially, all markers of self-betrayal are indicators of a process in the psyche known as self-devaluation. There are people who devalue others, and there are those who devalue themselves because they became accustomed to such treatment in their childhood. They were criticized, devalued, judged, and people were dissatisfied with them, while they were praised very little. Therefore, this model became familiar, and the person carried it into adulthood. Therefore, you need to become aware of this and change your attitude towards yourself, stopping all the pathological processes that you continue to support since your childhood. So let's move on. The next marker that you are betraying yourself is that you do not accept your past. You are ashamed of your past, even if no one knows about it. You recall your past with some shame, with some reproach that you should have acted differently. You should have done it not the way you did, but like this. You shouldn't have done that, but should have done this. And in this way, you kind of don't accept your past decisions, which were actually very valuable, are your experience, are not your mistakes, but your soul's attempt to find its own path of development. And even if you once got involved with a bad person who caused you pain, that person was also needed in your life. That was exactly the path of your psychological development. It was necessary because otherwise you wouldn't have understood. So please accept your past. Everything that happened to you, everything was meant to happen. This is what your soul chose. This is what your subconscious chose. And the last, seventh sign of self-betrayal is essentially the imposter syndrome. You consider all your significant achievements to be accidental. You believe that none of it is your merit. It all happened by chance. But if people really find out who you are, they will see through you. And then it will become clear that these achievements were entirely unexpected and are not due to your competence, your intelligence, your professional accomplishments. In other words, everything you do is somehow not you. It happened by chance. This is essentially the imposter syndrome, which prevents you from living, prevents you from accepting all the good things that have happened to you. And this is a very serious sign of self-betrayal. And to understand this, where it came from, I will tell you that it is formed precisely from childhood. It's the parent's attitude towards the child, and this later becomes the person's attitude towards themselves. Well, I also ask you to subscribe to my channel, give a like, and write whether you have found at least one sign of self-betrayal in yourself. It will be interesting if you provide your feedback.